Hey, this is Jen with Tested, and I'm here with Nemo Gould, and we're here in the gallery space where your show is up for just a few more days.
So Kinetic Art is this big umbrella term that I use just to explain the fact that it does something, that it has moving parts, interactive elements, and performs in some way more than just a static object would. There's a pretty wide range of work in the room here because I like to sort of run the gamut between giant and tiny. I think a bold statement and an intimate experience are sort of equally valuable, so I'm always trying to find that balance. This one is much more of an experience, so you have all these things that you can do.
Oh, so we can touch this one?
Yeah.
This is a please touch?
Yeah, this one was sort of developed for my 3-year-old who really liked playing with the steering wheel and the lights in the car. And so I would have to sit there with him, and I just decided that I could do better. So this is sort of like the blown up, sort of the best busy box I could come up with.
I'm really excited to see some of these pieces in person because I've been looking at pictures online, but they don't do justice to sort of the depth and the dimensions of this. There's so much going on in here, and so not only is it layered pieces that are sort of collage, but then there's the lighting, and then there's the mechanical piece.
The spark was just a stack of Life magazines from the 40s.
Wow.
And they represented just like this deep well of, you know, American culture capitalized. Like, it's just the whole story of us for this brief period in history. So all of these grew out of that resource, sprinkled with some other stuff, but the themes that emerge are because of the politics of the time. And I just really got into this challenge of trying to make them relevant to now. Like, how do I take a language of that era and talk about today, using all these years of skills I've developed in the interim? So that's what this whole series kind of represents to me, is recapturing a very early inclination to want to make moving pictures, but it's a decision to take it literally.
It's whimsical too. Like,
Yeah.
it's a
Well, it is supposed to be fun.
Yeah.
I would like for you to be able to enjoy the cartoon, and then if you have the patience, ask yourself what it might mean. A lot of the optical effect is the Fresnel lens. I use overhead opaque projector lenses, and it takes your field of view and narrows it while magnifying, and forces the thing into a little bit more of a kind of magical, illusory kind of a place. I thought I would be an animator when I grew up. So much of my interest in mechanical sculpture is sort of I love to think of these as like the sculptor's failed pictures. They're like as 2D as I could get. These are like my not quite cartoons. I can only manage to animate a looped sequence of a second and a half, it turns out. But I'd rather spend the same amount of time building the object as it would have taken me to produce an actual film sequence. I just didn't know this until, now.
Did you learn any of the mechanical stuff in a previous situation, or did you kind of think about that you wanted to make this and then figure out how to do the mechanics for it?
I kind of just went to the school of doing it wrong, because of my fascination with salvaging found things. I mostly learned how to make things by taking other things apart.
So reverse engineering it.
Pretty much just years of killing machines, and eventually I learned how to make machines. I've had a lot of help, but I don't have any real training in the field.
So you don't like secretly a mechanical engineer, this is self-taught?
No, I went to art school. I can doodle, but that's the only actual training I have. I think that is the challenge, is to make a thing that can provide some kind of experience on a surface level immediately, and then ideally there are layers beneath, so that if you're so inclined, you can keep getting more and more out of it, but that you don't necessarily need to have it explained to you. In an adolescent way, I've always loved guns because they're these awesome machines, and you hold them in your hand and you feel powerful, but I've never actually even fired one.
Really?
I'm not a gun guy, but I still have this appreciation. But I've avoided them because I didn't want to glorify them and make them too playful. So I've got interested in this series of trying to use them in a way that talks about the their often, I guess, duplicitous nature. This one's a little more serious, but it's just supposed to sort of be a model for the conversation where there is the thing that kills, and then there is what makes it work. And I was playing around with the color scheme of anatomy models, and I wanted this experience where you could split it open and it would be almost this organic thing rather than a weapon. Well, it is a weapon, but what makes it dangerous? And it's kind of the meat behind it, ultimately. And then this one behind you is just a consensus weapon. The idea there is that you can shoot anybody as long as you have two colleagues that agree who the bad guy is.
Huh. So how does this? Oh, I see that because there's three.
There's three of everything, but only one business end. So it's kind of just a joke about.
It won't work unless you've defined
just the democracy of violence. Like, who is the enemy? Well, it's whoever isn't us. So if you got enough us on one end of the thing, it'll fire, and that's the idea.
So most of your pieces are salvaged and sort of repurposed, polished up, and made into new things.
Yeah, I like to say that I love junk, but I don't make no junk. That's where it always starts, collecting parts until I find some relationships that seem really exciting, and then a lot of energy is spent bringing them together and really bringing out the finest quality I can in the things that I find.
Do you have specific spots that you source things from, or do people just bring things to you because they know you're the junk guy?
Both, but
Yeah.
the second part of that statement has become really kind of a trip. Like, I'm sort of like this junk pirate now, and I used to really have to struggle to find the good stuff, and now I kind of just like screen emails. Like, I get pictures all the time.
You can curate the intake of junk at this
I can
point.
say no.
Yeah.
But it's still very satisfying to go out hunting. So even though I don't need more stuff, I find I regularly have to go salvage just to sort of feel like me. If you think you're aware of conservation issues, go spend a whole day at a waste transfer. What you see move by in one single day is phenomenal. And it's just one city, one day. It's like fishing in a river. There's a constant flow and tons of stuff that has value, and it's just a matter of how quickly can you pull it and apply it to some other purpose.